The first thing I did after waking up as a rich, live-in husband was slap a divorce agreement on my Ice Queen CEO wife's desk. Audrey stared at me, her gaze cold enough to freeze blood. Ethan Vance, how much longer are you going to keep this up? The air around her grew thick with unspoken menace, the pen in her hand looking like it might snap. I braced myself for the impending storm, but then a soft, whiny voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Oh my God, my husband wants a divorce. My world is ending. Was it because I got a little handsy with his abs last night and woke him up? I didn't mean to. Help. Someone tell me how to keep a man. Online waiting, seriously urgent. I glanced around the empty office, then back at Audrey, who remained poker-faced. This plot, something definitely felt off. A hangover-like pain exploded in my skull, and it took me 3 minutes to accept the absurd truth. I transmigrated. I was now Ethan Vance, a house husband who, besides a killer face and ripped body, was pretty much useless. Married for a year, I hadn't even held my wife's hand. We slept in separate rooms, and frankly, my life was worse than the family dog's. The bank card I found stashed under the bed had a 2-digit balance. Nope, not me. Whoever wanted to be this loser could have him. I hopped online, downloaded a divorce agreement template, printed it, and signed it, all in one fluid motion. My goal was clear: divorce, alimony, and a quick escape. At Lynn Technologies' penthouse office, the receptionist tried to block me. She saw my face, then a mix of pity and disdain flickered in her eyes. Mr. Vance, Ms. Lynn is in a meeting. I brushed past her and pushed open the office door. By the massive floor-to-ceiling windows stood a woman, her back to me, dressed in a perfectly tailored black power suit. Her long hair pulled back in a severe bun. She exuded an almost suffocating aura. This was my wife, Audrey Lynn. She truly lived up to her reputation as the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Even her silhouette screamed, "Stay away." I slammed the divorce papers on her desk. Audrey Lynn, I want a divorce. She slowly turned, her beautiful face a mask of indifference. Ethan Vance, what stunt are you pulling now? Her voice, like her entire demeanor, was sharp enough to cut glass. I braced myself for the usual barrage of mockery and humiliation. I wasn't the pushover the original Ethan had been. But then a strange voice echoed in my mind. Oh my God, my husband is so dominant today. He just stormed in and used my first name. Even when he's mad, he's so dreamy. I froze. There were only 2 of us in the office. Where was that voice coming from? Audrey, seeing my dazed expression, frowned slightly. Did you not understand me? The voice returned, this time with a whimpering edge. He really wants to leave me. What am I going to do? I don't want a divorce, boo-hoo. It's all my fault. It must be because I wouldn't let him into bed. He probably thinks I don't love him. A beat. But I'm so shy. I've never even dated before. My heart just goes crazy and my legs turn to jelly whenever he gets close. I stared at the frigid woman across from me, utterly dumbfounded. These mortifying thoughts were hers. Was I reading minds? To test my theory, I tentatively reached out, pretending to retrieve the agreement. On the surface, Audrey remained aloof, even a touch annoyed. But her internal voice was a dead giveaway. He's taking it back. He regretted it. Thank God. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Then, I knew he couldn't bear to leave me. He totally chickened out. I pulled my hand back as if I'd touched a live wire. So, my Ice Queen wife was actually a secret softie? I cleared my throat, forcing nonchalance. You know what? Never mind. I'll reconsider. Audrey snorted, turned, and settled back in her chair, picking up a stack of files. How utterly tedious. Yes, my husband's not leaving. Time to pop champagne. Let's celebrate. A beat. Tonight, Ms. Davies has to make that super boost stew. I'll feed him until he's so full he won't have the energy to even think about divorce. I bit back a laugh, watching her pretend to read the files. She was holding them upside down, by the way. Classic CEO move. This divorce, I might just put it on hold. The car ride home was so tense you could cut the air with a knife. Our driver kept glancing at us in the rearview mirror, his eyes full of pity. Audrey stared out the window, her jaw clenched, radiating a palpable don't even think about it vibe. I, however, was feeling a little mischievous. I deliberately shifted closer to her. Her body instantly stiffened. Oh, he's leaning in. Is he trying to do something? Then what do I do? Should I play hard to get, or just go with it? A sigh. Oh God, his shower gel smells amazing. I just want to bury my face in his chest and take a huge whiff. I nearly burst out laughing. I'd only moved maybe 4 inches. Her imagination was wild. She should seriously consider writing romance novels. I edged a little closer, our arms almost brushing. Audrey's breathing hitched. It's going to touch. It's going to touch. My heart is going to explode. Audrey Lynn, compose yourself. You are the Ice Queen's CEO. Just then, the driver slammed on the brakes. I lost my balance and pitched forward, right into her. All soft curves and sweet scent. She was suddenly a delightful armful. Audrey's entire body went rigid as a board, but a flush quickly spread across her cheeks. Oh, my husband's holding me. His chest is so firm. Followed by a panicked, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. This is too much happiness all at once. I quickly straightened up, pretending nothing had happened. My bad. She snapped back to her Ice Queen persona, adjusting her slightly rumpled suit. Watch the road, she said to the driver, her voice laced with a subtle threat that made him visibly flinch. Ugh, why'd my husband pull away? Just a little longer. Back at the Lynn family mansion, my mother-in-law, Brenda Lynn, was lounging on the sofa, a sheet mask plastered to her face. The moment she saw me, her voice took on its usual cutting, sarcastic edge. Well, if it isn't our resident slacker. Back so soon? What new ways did you find to embarrass Audrey today, Ethan? I honestly couldn't be bothered. From what I'd gathered from the original Ethan's memories, my mother-in-law had never given him a moment's peace. Sure enough, at dinner, Ms. Davies served up a hearty, dark stew. Brenda continued her tirade, unabated. Audrey, I'm telling you, you're just too soft. Keeping this moocher around? What will people say? It's a disgrace to the Lynn name. Audrey simply kept her head down, sipping her soup, completely silent. Brenda took her silence as agreement and doubled down. Just look at Connor Zhao. Young, successful, always so attentive to you. He's 100 times better than this good-for-nothing who just blows your money. My grip tightened on my chopsticks, ready to fire back. But Audrey's inner monologue erupted first. Shut up, you old bat. That's my husband, my precious darling, whom I'm so careful with. I wouldn't even think of hurting. How dare you talk about him like that? Her inner voice fumed. That greasy Connor Zhao. He's nothing. He's not even fit to tie my husband's shoelaces. Then, I'm so mad. If she talks about my husband like that one more time, I'm going to snip all her Hermes bags into ribbons. My anger immediately evaporated, replaced by a desperate urge to laugh. I decided to play along. I cast my eyes down, adopting a wounded, crestfallen expression. Mom's right, I said, my voice quiet. I'm pretty useless. I'm not worthy of Audrey. Audrey's inner monologue immediately went into overdrive. Who said my husband is useless? He is useful. His face is the most useful. His body is the most useful. Then don't cry, hubby. Don't listen to that old witch. Come here, let me hug you. Clang. With a startling crash, Audrey slammed her chopsticks onto the table. The entire dining room fell silent. She fixed Brenda with an icy stare. Mom, we don't speak at the dinner table. Brenda was utterly silenced, her face cycling through shades of red and white. I inwardly grinned. Later that night, we still slept in separate rooms. I headed to my small guest room. Audrey stood at the door of the master bedroom, clearly wanting to say something. I want to sleep with my husband. She pondered for a moment. What excuse can I use? Say I'm afraid of the dark? No, too embarrassing. My formidable CEO aura would crumble. Another pause. Or, what if the AC in the master bedroom is broken? After agonizing for a good while, she finally said nothing, stomped her foot, and slammed the door shut with a frustrated sigh. I leaned against the door, my shoulders shaking with silent laughter. This soft-rise life? I think I'm going to enjoy it. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Ms. Davies opened it to a sharply dressed man, his hair slicked back to perfection. In one hand, he held a massive bouquet of roses, and behind him trailed 2 bodyguards, each laden with gift-wrapped boxes. It was Connor Zhao, the man my mother-in-law had declared 100 times better than me. Annie, Brenda, Audrey, Connor greeted, his smile a little too slick, completely ignoring me, who was standing there in my pajamas. Brenda immediately went into full hostess mode, her face alight. Oh, Connor, darling, come in, come in. Audrey had just come downstairs. Seeing Connor, her brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice flat. Connor, undeterred, offered the roses. I heard you like these, so I had them air freighted from Holland. Audrey didn't take them. I, however, heard her mental commentary. Who likes roses? I'm allergic to pollen, you idiot. And who is this greasy guy? Did he bathe in hairspray? The stench is suffocating. He's polluting the air within a 5-yard radius. Connor then opened a velvet box, revealing a dazzling diamond necklace. Audrey, this is Cartier's latest limited edition. I thought it perfectly suited your sophisticated style. Brenda's eyes lit up. Oh, Connor, you're too kind. Audrey merely glanced at it, then coolly took the box. Thanks. Connor finally turned his attention to me, a smirk playing on his lips, dripping with undisguised provocation. Is this Ethan? Ethan, are you always so relaxed at home? A man needs his own career, you know. He was basically calling me a gold digger. I hadn't even opened my mouth when Audrey's inner voice chimed in. My husband's leisure is none of your damn business. He's in charge of being handsome, my candy, and I'm in charge of making money. It's a perfect arrangement. She scoffed internally. A cheap glass bauble? Who are you trying to fool? It's not even as pretty as the little turtle my husband casually sketched on a napkin last week. I almost choked on my laughter, so she kept my silly doodle. I decided to fan the flames a bit. Mr. Zhao, I said slowly, this gift is quite extravagant. Audrey might not care for it. Connor smirked, a patronizing chuckle escaping him. Ethan, a man like you shouldn't concern himself with women's taste. You probably wouldn't understand these things. The words were barely out of his mouth when Audrey moved. She casually tossed the velvet jewelry box to Ms. Davies, who was standing nearby. Ms. Davies, please take this and use it to scrub the toilets. It's an eyesore. The room fell into stunned silence. Connor's smile froze, as if struck by lightning. Ms. Davies, holding the box, looked like her hands were shaking. Brenda was aghast. Audrey, what are you doing? Audrey, who hadn't even touched the necklace, pointedly wiped her fingers clean. She fixed Connor with an icy glare. I don't like things other people have touched. She paused, and I distinctly heard her add internally. Except my husband, of course. Connor's face turned a horrifying shade of purple, and he froze solid. I leaned against the stair banister, thoroughly enjoying his mortification. What was it like to have a wife who fiercely protected you in her mind and publicly shut down your haters? In a word, glorious. The Lin family gala was held at the city's most opulent downtown hotel. As the family's only house husband, I was naturally the center of attention. Or rather, the center of ridicule. The moment I stepped in, Audrey's Uncle Frank greeted me with a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. Well, if it isn't Ethan Vance. His son, my cousin Mark, openly scrutinized me, a sneer on his face. Ethan, you're looking quite sharp today. That suit must have cost Audrey a pretty penny, huh? A chorus of snickers erupted from the surrounding relatives. I kept my face blank. To them, I was just a pretty boy living off his wife's time. When it came to seating, I was, of course, relegated to the furthest corner, at a table with a bunch of 7- and 8-year-olds. The kids eyed me curiously. Are you a kid too, mister? One asked. I calmly peeled an orange. Yup, I said. Mentally, I'm about 3. Just then, a hush fell over the room as Audrey arrived. All eyes turned to her. She looked breathtaking in a shimmering silver gown, like a goddess bathed in moonlight, elegant and untouchable. She walked directly to the head table, taking the seat next to Grandpa Lin. But I heard her anxious thoughts. Where's my husband? Where is he? Where do they stick my poor baby? Her inner voice fumed. These snobs, are they bullying him again? My heart is breaking. They had found him. In the corner. Good Lord, they put my husband at a table with little kids. Under the watchful eyes of the entire room, Audrey, who had just been seated at the head table, suddenly stood up. Gathering the silver fabric of her dress, she swept across the ballroom, her heels clicking a rhythmic beat that seemed to echo in everyone's chest. She stopped right at my table. Then, to the utter shock of every single person, she extended her hand to me. Come sit with me. A collective gasp rippled through the room. I met her gaze. Her face was impassive, but her eyes held a fierce determination. I placed my hand in hers. She pulled me up and led me back to the head table. Uncle Frank was the first to object, practically sputtering. "Audrey, this is highly irregular. He's a house husband. He can't sit at the head table." Audrey didn't even glance at him. She simply stated, her voice chillingly calm, "My rules are the only rules that matter." Internally, she added, "Dare to bully my man, and tomorrow I'll make sure your pathetic branch office is shut down for good." She pressed me into the chair beside her, and I felt the wave of jealousy and astonishment emanating from every direction. This feeling? Not bad at all. As a little reward, I subtly reached under the table and gently traced the palm of her hand with my fingertip. Audrey's entire body gave a sudden jolt. On the surface, she remained perfectly poised, raising her wine glass and taking an elegant sip. But her inner scream was practically deafening me. "Ah, he's flirting with me. He just touched my palm." Then, is he trying to tell me something? Does he like me too? A desperate plea. "Help, I'm going to have a nosebleed." "Audrey Lynn, compose yourself. You are the Ice Queen CEO." I bit back a laugh, and just then, an unwelcome voice cut through the air. "Grandpa Lynn, uncles, I have something I'd like everyone to see." Connor Zhao, who had apparently also arrived, strutted up to our table, a file folder in his hand and a triumphant smirk on his face. He dramatically dumped the contents of the folder onto the table. A cascade of photos scattered across the polished surface. They clearly showed me in intimate situations with several models. Connor's voice was dripping with schadenfreude. "Audrey, I know you try to defend him, but look, this is how he repays your loyalty." An instant, deathly silence fell over the banquet hall. All eyes snapped from the photos to me. Uncle Frank was the first to leap up, pointing an accusatory finger at me, his face a mask of feigned heartbreak. "A disgrace to our family name. An utter disgrace. This kind of trash must be thrown out of the Lynn family immediately." He turned to Audrey. "Audrey, you must see his true colors now. You have to divorce him." A murmur of whispers and outright sneers spread through the relatives, their gazes filled with contempt and thinly veiled delight. Audrey sat beside me, utterly motionless. She picked up one of the photos, her fingertips trembling slightly. Everyone assumed she was seething with rage, barely holding herself together. Connor, basking in his triumph, put on a show of faux sympathy. "Audrey, don't be upset. He's not worth it." But only I heard her inner monologue. There was no anger, no sadness, only ice-cold, scathing mockery. "Seriously, the Photoshop job on this is pathetic. The lighting's all wrong, and there are still white edges from the cutout." She zoomed in mentally. "And this hand? This isn't my husband's hand. My husband's fingers are long and slender, with distinct knuckles and a tiny mole on his index finger that I've secretly kissed. This photo looks like a ham hock." She mentally scoffed. "These morons, can't they see how clumsy this trick is?" I nearly burst out laughing. She knew about the mole on my finger? Audrey slowly raised her head. With a flick of her wrist, she flung the photos directly into Connor Zhao's face, the papers scattering around him like a flurry of humiliating snow. "This is your proof?" Her voice was a shard of ice. Connor was stunned. "Audrey, you don't believe me? The photos are fake." Audrey cut him off, her tone utterly unyielding. She stood up, scanning the room. Her voice, though not loud, carried clearly to every ear. "Ethan Vance is with me every single night. When would he have time to be out fooling around?" A collective gasp erupted. While we did sleep separately, her words were an undeniable declaration of our marital harmony, implying even passionate nights. Seeing the shocked, yet suggestive, glances aimed our way, I knew it was my turn to play along. I stood up, smoothly wrapping an arm around Audrey's waist and pulling her into my embrace. Her body stiffened instantly, but she didn't resist. Leaning in, I murmured in her ear, just loud enough for a few people nearby to overhear. "Sweetheart, they don't seem to believe us. Maybe you should tell them about the new positions we tried last night." Audrey's face flushed scarlet, the color creeping from her earlobes all the way down her neck. To everyone else, it looked like I'd provoked her fury, but I heard her inner fangirl scream. "Eek!" I squeezed her gently, sensing the perfect moment. I leaned into the microphone. Mr. Zhao, I drawled. You seem to have so much free time to Photoshop pictures and frame me. Perhaps you should pay more attention to your own company's financial records. Connor's face visibly paled. I knew because, moments earlier, when he was gloating, I'd heard his inner thoughts. Once I get Audrey, I'll quickly cover up all those tax evasion issues at the company. I met his suddenly panicked gaze and smiled. Word on the street is the IRS has been really cracking down lately. That night, I certainly made a name for myself within the Lin family. The banquet fiasco finally settled, but the car ride home was even more frigid than the journey there. Audrey was silent, gazing out the window, offering me only her icy profile. I knew she was still fuming about what had happened at the gala, furious at everyone who had slandered me. But I also felt it was time to test the limits of her feelings for me. Back at the mansion, instead of heading to the guest room, I followed her into the master bedroom. She turned, her eyes narrowed in a silent question. I closed the door behind me, leaning against it, and spoke in a wounded tone. You hesitated. She froze. What? When they pulled out those photos, your hand was shaking. I stared directly into her eyes. For a second, you didn't believe me. Of course, I knew she was trembling from excitement, not doubt. But a good performance required commitment. Audrey, predictably, began to panic. On the surface, she tried to maintain her composure. Don't be absurd. I did no such thing. But her inner voice betrayed her completely. Oh no. I screwed up. What if my husband is actually mad at me? Then I was just excited, trembling with excitement, not doubt. How could I possibly not believe him? A desperate internal plea. How do I explain this? I need answers, quick. Should I get on my knees? Or offer to walk on Legos? I upped the ante, opening the closet and pulling out my meager collection of clothes, stuffing them into an overnight bag. If there's no basic trust between us, I said, then I don't see the point in continuing this charade. I zipped the bag. I'm going to a hotel. Audrey was completely dumbfounded. She rushed forward and grabbed my arm. Ethan Vance. Stop being so dramatic. Her hand was cold, but her grip was surprisingly strong. Hubby, don't leave. I was wrong. I was really, really wrong. Her inner voice wailed. What do I do? How do I keep him? Throw a fit? But I'm a CEO, for goodness sake. I gently but firmly shook her hand off, bag in hand, and headed for the door. She chased me to the threshold, then stopped, her CEO, pride, evidently kicking in. She could only yell, her voice trembling with a forced bravado. If you walk out that door today, Ethan Vance, don't even think about coming back. I didn't look back. I had barely checked into a 5-star hotel nearby when Audrey's distinctive Rolls-Royce swooped up to the entrance below. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, a smirk playing on my lips. From 15 stories up, I could still clearly hear her remarkably loud inner monologue. What if this shoddy hotel has cockroaches? Are the sheets clean? My husband's skin is so sensitive. What if he gets bitten? A worried sigh. No, I have to go up there and protect him. But I just said all those harsh things. If I go up now, I'll look like a fool. This is so embarrassing. She deliberated for a full 5 minutes. Then knock, knock, knock. The door. I opened it to find Audrey standing there, a stern expression on her beautiful face. Behind her stood 2 bodyguards, each carrying brand new, top-of-the-line silk sheets and several containers of takeout. I leaned against the doorframe, feigning innocence. Ms. Lin, is there an issue? She cleared her throat, her gaze darting everywhere but at me. Grandpa was worried, she mumbled. He told me to come check if you were still alive. Her excuse was endearing, to say the least. I stepped aside to let her in. Well, now that you've seen I'm alive, you can go. Instead, she walked straight to the room's single armchair and sat down, unmoving. The bodyguards quietly left. We were alone. I looked at her. Something else? She held her rigid pose for a moment, then a tiny sigh. My legs are numb. I can't move. Please let me stay. I'm begging you. I don't want to go home alone. Her inner voice pleaded. Husband, please take pity on me. I drove all this way to find you. Seeing her try to play it cool while her inner thoughts screamed for comfort, my heart melted. The next day, Audrey practically dragged me back to Lin Technologies. She gave me a new title, personal assistant to the CEO. My desk was directly opposite hers, less than 2 yards away. The official reason? Surveillance, to prevent me from running away again. Soon, the entire company knew. The useless house husband had been given a cushy job at Lynn Technologies to live off his wife. I became the company joke. Look, there he is. I heard he didn't even finish college. He's handsome, I guess, but a total gold digger. What is Ms. Lynn thinking, keeping him so close? Doesn't she feel embarrassed? I, for my part, couldn't have cared less. My job description was incredibly simple. Sit there, be seen. So, I took full advantage and openly started playing games on my computer. It wasn't long before the HR manager came to complain. He knocked on the CEO's office door, looking righteous. Ms. Lynn, Mr. Vance is playing games during work hours. It's creating a very poor impression. Audrey didn't even look up from her files. Let him play if he wants. The manager bristled. But company policy states, from today, policy has been updated. Audrey finally lifted her gaze, her eyes like chips of ice. Not only are you forbidden from telling him what to do, you will also ensure he receives a plate of freshly sliced fruit every day. And if he wants coffee or needs a nap, you will arrange it. The manager's jaw practically hit the floor, utterly stunned. I heard Audrey's inner monologue. Dare to tell my husband what to do. You must have a death wish for your career. Then, my husband looks so charming when he's focused on gaming. His profile is perfect. His fingers are so long. A wistful thought. I want to sit on his lap and watch him play. No, Audrey, be professional. You are the CEO. The manager slunk away, looking utterly defeated. From that day on, I essentially had free reign in the company. Of course, my gold digger status also attracted some unwanted attention. A new female intern, clearly confident in her looks, began making overt advances toward me. One day it was coffee, the next a gourmet pastry. She deliberately wear revealing clothes and linger by my desk. Ethan, I'm a little confused about this file. Could you possibly walk me through it? She bent over, her cleavage prominently displayed. Before I could even open my mouth, I felt a murderous gaze from across the office. Audrey slammed her file shut and pressed the intercom. HR manager, my office, immediately. 5 minutes later, that intern was fired. The reason for dismissal was both bizarre and hilariously domineering. This morning, Audrey had stated, her face completely expressionless, "You entered the company premises with your left foot first." I found it displeasing. The intern was sobbing as security escorted her out. The entire secretarial pool was utterly silent. I heard Audrey's internal roar. "You little vixen, trying to seduce my husband? Look at the cheap goods you're peddling." She fumed. "My hands haven't even gotten warm yet, and you think you could just swoop in? No chance." Then, a chilling declaration. "Any more idiots who try to cozy up to my husband will be shown the door." I sipped my freshly delivered fruit juice, watching the fiercely possessive woman across from me. Being protected with such utter dominance felt incredibly good. This soft-rice life was getting tastier by the day. Peace didn't last long. A few days later, the company ran into serious trouble. Lynn Technologies had been preparing for 6 months to win a crucial downtown development project, a project they were absolutely determined to get. But at the bidding conference, our rival, Zhao Corporation, Connor Zhao's family company, snatched the project away with a bid exactly $1 million lower than ours. It meant our confidential bidding price had been leaked. There was a mole within Lynn Technologies. The atmosphere in the executive boardroom was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. Audrey sat at the head of the table, her face visibly pale. Several veteran board members took turns piling on the pressure. "Audrey, how can we trust your leadership when such a critical project gets botched?" one said. "I think you're still too young," another chimed in. "Perhaps it's time to let us older, more experienced individuals manage the company." Audrey gripped her pen so tightly her knuckles stood out white. As her personal assistant, I was, of course, also in the room. I heard her thoughts, a symphony of barely contained panic. What do I do? Am I really going to lose everything this time? Then, a pang of self-reproach. Grandpa entrusted the company to me, and I've completely messed it up. And then, the most surprising part. If the company goes bankrupt, how will I support my husband? Will he leave me then? Boom. At a time like this, she was worried about not being able to support me. I found it both hilarious and incredibly touching. It seemed it was time for this trophy husband to actually earn his keep. The suspects quickly narrowed down to 3 executives who had access to core data. Gary Miller, a VP who had been with the Lynn family for 20 years, Audrey's cousin, and a newly promoted project director. Audrey was currently in a heated debate with them, trying to find a weak link. I, meanwhile, strolled around with a tea tray, slowly offering drinks to the executives. "Mr. Miller tea," I said, approaching Gary Miller, who looked the very picture of loyalty. He was fervently declaring his innocence. "Ms. Lynn, you know I've been fiercely loyal to this company for decades. There's no way it could be me." But I heard his thoughts. Good thing I cover my tracks perfectly. No one will ever suspect me. Connor promised me $10 million, and it'll be in my account tomorrow. Gotcha. I didn't say a word. Instead, as I poured his tea, my hand slipped. The scalding hot tea cascaded directly onto his suit pants. "Ah!" Gary yelped, jumping up, his finger immediately pointing at me. "Are you blind?" Audrey immediately came to my defense, her gaze freezing Gary Miller in place. He didn't do it on purpose. Perhaps a little splash of hot tea is exactly what you need to wake you up and stop shouting in my boardroom. Gary was silenced. While he frantically tried to dab at his pants, I quietly moved to his phone, which lay on the table. When I'd overheard his thoughts earlier, I'd also caught his lock screen password. Pretending to help him pick up a fallen napkin, my fingers flew across his screen, forwarding his incriminating email to Connor Zhao, straight to my own inbox. The entire operation took less than 10 seconds. That evening, after everyone else had left, the vast office was empty save for Audrey and me. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples, a picture of exhaustion. I placed the printed email on her desk. "Found this in the break room earlier," I said innocently, not sure who it belongs to. She picked it up, her eyes widening as she read it. Her pupils constricted. It was all the evidence of Gary Miller's dealings with Connor Zhao. She snapped her head up, staring at me, her eyes wide with shock and confusion. I gave her a small smile, tried to look as sweet and oblivious as possible. "Sweetheart, I'm starving. Let's go home for dinner." The mole was apprehended, and the damning evidence sent directly to the police. While Lynn Technologies had lost the project, they had minimized the damage and successfully purged the traitor from within. To celebrate, Audrey hosted a small internal victory party. As the hero who had found the crucial evidence, I was naturally roped into attending. At the party, Audrey was surrounded by executives, all clamoring to toast her. She wasn't much of a drinker, and after a few glasses, her cheeks were flushed, her eyes beginning to glaze over. By the end of the night, she could barely stand, practically draped over me. I half carried her to the car. All the way home, she was restless, rubbing against me like a kitten, murmuring soft words. Drunk, her inner thoughts and spoken words had merged. "Ethan Vance, you big meanie, always picking on me. Then, but I really, really like you." A soft purr. "Hubby, hug me." I listened to her gooey, drunken confessions, my heart melting. Finally getting her home, I guided her into the master bedroom. I helped her kick off her heels, hoping she'd just lie down and rest. But she clung to me like a koala. "Don't leave. Stay with me." Then, "I feel so sticky. I want to take a shower." I sighed, resigned, and went into the bathroom to run a bath for her. I'd barely adjusted the water temperature when she stumbled in, insistent that I join her. "You help me wash." In the ensuing tug-of-war, the shower head got knocked, and a gush of warm water instantly drenched us both. My white dress shirt, soaked through, clung to my body, outlining the lean musculature beneath. Audrey's eyes were fixed on my abs, and I could practically hear her drooling. "Ups. They're real. I want to touch them so badly." She actually reached out, her cool fingertips trailing across my heated skin. I froze, my Adam's apple bobbing. Who could resist that? Just then her foot slipped. She let out a small yelp and started to fall backward. My reflexes kicked in. I grabbed her, but lost my own footing, and we both tumbled onto the slick tile floor. I instinctively cradled her head to protect it, and we ended up in an incredibly intimate tangle. The bathroom was steamy, the atmosphere thick with unspoken desire. She looked up at me, her wet dark hair plastered to her cheeks, her eyes hazy and utterly captivating. Her inner voice, like a frantic drum solo, pounded in my head. "Kiss me. Just kiss me already, you idiot." Then, this is such a perfect opportunity. Are you even a man if you don't kiss me? A desperate plea. Hurry up. I can't wait any longer. I leaned in, our lips just a breath away. Bang, bang, bang. Brenda Lynn's voice boomed from outside the door, accompanied by furious knocking. Audrey, your hangover cure is ready. Open up. It was like a bucket of ice water. Audrey instantly sobered. She shoved me away, her face a fiery crimson. You pervert. She scrambled to her feet, practically shooing me out of the bathroom, then slammed the door shut with a resounding bang. After the door clicked, I could clearly hear her thumping against the wall, her inner voice screaming in utter despair. MOM. Are you kidding me? You couldn't have come any earlier or later. You just had to show up now. Then my first kiss. It was barely a millimeter away. A frustrated wail. I'm so mad. Brenda Lynn, I hate you. I leaned against the cold wall, soaking wet, a mix of amusement and exasperation. My mother-in-law truly was a master of comedic timing. Connor Zhao was behind bars, and the Zhao family corporation was teetering on the brink of collapse. I'd assumed he'd be out of commission for a while, but a cornered animal is dangerous. That afternoon, I was playing a game in the office when an unknown number flashed on my screen. It was Connor, his voice dripping with venom. Ethan Vance, your precious wife is in my hands. He snarled, if you want her to live, come alone to the abandoned warehouse district on the city's outskirts. No police, or you'll be picking up her corpse. I heard Audrey's muffled sobs through the phone. My brain buzzed, blood rushing to my head. In that moment, all thoughts of my laid-back life, of casually living off my wife, vanished. All I knew was this. My woman had been kidnapped. I snatched my car keys and stormed out of the office, my eyes colder and sharper than anyone in the company had ever seen. They were too terrified to even speak. I sped out of the parking garage, simultaneously using the smartwatch on my wrist to pinpoint Audrey's location. It was a matching pair I'd given her. She'd called it childish at the time, but wore it every day. The locator showed her in the abandoned steel factory out in the Western District. I floored the accelerator, the car rocketing forward like a bullet. By the time I reached the factory, darkness had fallen. I saw Audrey tied to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, her face pale, tears glistening in her eyes. Connor Zhao held a switchblade, tracing its tip menacingly along her delicate cheek, his expression a twisted mask of madness. Ethan Vance, you finally arrived, he sneered. Now kneel. He jabbed the knife at me. Get on your knees. You think you're so hot? So clever. Audrey, seeing me, shook her head frantically, muffled cries escaping past the tape. Her inner voice, a desperate plea, hammered in my mind. Husband run. He's completely insane. He has a gun. Then, don't worry about me. Just go. Followed by a raw, fearful whimper. Oh God, but I'm so scared. I need you to save me. A gun? My eyes narrowed. I feigned submission, beginning to lower myself to one knee. Just as my knees bent, I concentrated all my mental energy, honing in on Connor's thoughts. Once he's on his knees, I'll blow his brains out. Then I'll have Audrey all to myself. A flicker. The gun's in my left pocket. He'll never see it coming. Then, a chilling addendum. I'll shoot his leg first, make him watch me torture his wife from his humiliating position. I had all the information I needed. I dropped to my knees, making sure I looked utterly humiliated. Connor let out a triumphant cackle, his guard dropping. He reached for the gun in his pocket. Ethan Vance. The moment that thought flashed through his mind, I moved. Like a coiled spring, I exploded upward, snatching a discarded steel pipe from the ground and slamming it with full force onto the hand reaching for his gun. Ack! Connor screamed, the pistol flying from his grasp. I kicked the gun away, not hesitating for a second, and the steel pipe rained down on him again and again. Each strike was met with another of his agonizing howls. Soon, he was a whimpering mess, curled on the ground, unable to move. Police sirens blared in the distance. I'd call them on my way here. I dropped the pipe, rushing to Audrey. My hands trembled as I ripped the duct tape from her mouth and frantically untied the ropes. The moment she was free, she launched herself into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. This time, there was no internal monologue, just raw, real tears of terror and relief. I held her tightly, feeling like I was holding the entire world in my arms. It's okay. I murmured, stroking her hair. I'm here. You're safe. The hospital room smelled faintly of antiseptic. Audrey was shaken, with only a few minor scrapes on her wrists. Thankfully, nothing serious. But she clung to me like a frightened child, gripping the hem of my shirt, refusing to let go. I sat by her bedside, peeling an apple for her. She watched me, silently, her eyes wide and unwavering, as if she couldn't get enough of looking at me. Her inner thoughts, though, were a gooey, affectionate mess. My husband even looks handsome peeling an apple. I want to marry him. A beat. Oh wait, I already did. Then, I want every day to be like this. Waking up to see him, falling asleep with my head on his arm. A sudden internal conflict. But I'm the CEO. I can't be too clingy. I have to maintain my Ice Queen persona. Ugh, forget it. I'm going to be his personal koala. I handed her the perfectly peeled apple, then casually said, being a koala is perfectly fine with me. Audrey's hand, still reaching for the apple, froze mid-air. Her entire body went rigid. What did you say? I met her gaze, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. I said, I never thought you were fierce. I actually found your inner softie incredibly cute. Audrey's pupils dilated as if experiencing an earthquake. Her face, visibly, rapidly flushed from her cheeks to her ears, down to her neck, until she resembled a perfectly boiled lobster. He heard me. Her inner voice shrieked. No way. Absolutely impossible. How could he possibly know what I was thinking? A desperate attempt at rationalization. It's a coincidence. It has to be a coincidence. I decided to deliver the final blow. I cleared my throat, and mimicking her inner voice, I repeated in a soft, cooing tone. Oh my God, my husband is so dominant today. Even when he's mad, he's so dreamy. Then, was it because I got a little handsy with his abs last night and woke him up? And a cheap glass bauble? Who are you trying to fool? It's not even as pretty as the little turtle my husband casually sketched. Finally, kiss me. Just kiss me already, you idiot. With each sentence I recited, Audrey's face grew a deeper shade of crimson. By the time I finished, she was utterly petrified, her brain visibly rebooting. A few seconds later, she finally processed it and let out an earth-shattering shriek. Ah! She snatched the blanket, pulled it over her head, and thrashed wildly underneath it. I can't live anymore. Ethan Vance, you pervert. You mind-reading freak. She wailed from under the covers. Stop it. Don't say another word. It was arguably the biggest public humiliation of her life, even if only I was privy to it. I laughed so hard my sides ached, then gathered her, blanket and all, into my arms, letting her wriggle against me. Stop hiding, I murmured. This pervert is your husband. The thrashing beneath the blanket stopped. A moment later, a small gap appeared, revealing a pair of watery, mortified, yet furious eyes. When did you start hearing? Everything. From the day I put those divorce papers on your desk, I confessed. Her face flushed in even deeper red. So, you already knew I was. Yup, I said. I knew you were an ice queen on the outside, a total softie on the inside, a complete drama queen, and a secret fangirl who overthinks everything. She punched my chest, a soft, ineffectual blow. Stop talking. I caught her hand, bringing it to my lips for a kiss. Okay, I'll stop. I looked into her eyes. Audrey Lynn, I love you. This time, I didn't need to read her mind, because I saw the tears streaming down her face, even as the corners of her lips curved upward. She threw her arms around my neck, holding me tight, her voice thick with emotion. I love you too. Connor Zhao was successfully jailed, and the Zhao family empire completely collapsed. With my behind-the-scenes assistance, Lin Technologies not only weathered the storm, but also absorbed many of Zhao Corp's former assets, reaching new heights. I no longer hid my true capabilities and formally began to take over certain areas of the group's business. My unexpected business acumen completely shocked the veteran board members. The former useless house husband became the respected Mr. Vance throughout Lin Technologies. Audrey, in turn, happily embraced her role as my leading lady. She was still the fierce, decisive so everyone respected. But around me, her Ice Queen facade completely melted, replaced by an endearingly clingy girlfriend. Our company employees, who once scoffed at me, were now subjected to daily doses of PDA. Mr. Vance, Ms. Lynn said she doesn't quite understand this report and wants you to come teach her. Mr. Vance, Ms. Lynn says her hands are cold and she wants you to warm them up. Mr. Vance, Ms. Lynn says she misses you. After our big reveal, we moved in together. I proposed a grand wedding. We'd only ever done a civil ceremony with no proper celebration. She mumbled, boring, such a waste of money, but her inner voice was screaming, yes. A wedding dress. I'm going to be the most beautiful bride ever. On our wedding day, all of the city's elite gathered. Audrey wore a gown I had personally designed, and she looked so breathtakingly beautiful that no one could tear their eyes away. When the officiant asked, Audrey Lynn, do you take Ethan Vance to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? Audrey hadn't even opened her mouth when, with a sudden sizzle, the sound system experienced a minor glitch. Then, a digitally altered, soft, almost childish female voice, amplified through the speakers, echoed through the entire wedding venue. Yes, yes. 1,000 times yes. Hubby, let's go to the honeymoon suite already. The entire room went silent for a beat, then erupted into thunderous laughter. Audrey's face instantly turned the color of a ripe tomato. She was so mortified, she tried to bury her head in her wedding dress, clearly wishing the floor would swallow her whole. As she frantically pinched my side, she hissed through gritted teeth, her voice barely a whisper only I could hear. Ethan Vance, was that you? I bit back a laugh, tightening my grip on her hand, and whispered back, Sweetheart, I swear that wasn't me. Elite. This time, I didn't read your mind. That was just something you said in your sleep. I recorded it. Of course, I'd actually hired someone to perfectly mimic her internal monologue. She froze for a moment, then, realizing, angrily stomped on my foot. I chuckled, then leaned down and kissed her. Amidst the cheers and laughter of our guests, the kiss was long and incredibly sweet. I looked at the woman in my arms, her eyes filled only with me. So what if I transmigrated as a house husband? Getting to marry such a cute, incredible woman was the best deal I'd ever made.